Hey, it's me, Dr. J. Next section of Chapter 6, 6.2, some general applications of percent. I'm going to do some word problems eventually, with, some real life implications. But just to kind of get the process under our belt, I'm going to start off with some just basic formulaic sort of, how to read and then write out the equations without having there be any real context. And so these are all based on the phrase A is P percent. For now, I'm going to write the word percent. I'll probably get lazy at some point and just start using the symbol. But to get this started, I'll write it out. A is P percent of B. So this is the general format of general application of percent. And we're going to translate this into an equation. So let's go ahead and do the easy part. So is, that's equals, of, that's multiply. Okay. I always do those first. The letters are going to stay the same. So A is A. Now, P percent. There are two ways to write that. There's the fractional form, or if you prefer, the decimal form. These mean the same thing. P divided by 100, or P over 100, means the same thing as 0.01P. Now this is where it gets a little bit dangerous, because I'm using a dot for multiplication and I'm also using a dot for a decimal. Be careful. One of the dots means multiply, the other dot means decimal. If you're afraid that you're going to make a mistake because you write too fast or you just get kind of careless through the process, then don't use a dot for multiply. You can use an X, or you can just use nothing at all. And then B goes here like this. So you have two different versions of the formula. One is the fractional version. The other is the decimal version. Tomato, tomato. Okay. And again, if you want to be safe, you can get rid of this multiply dot. You can't really get rid of the decimal dot, but you can get rid of the multiply dot. You can write it like this. This is the quick way to write it. PB over 100. Yeah. It's P times B, which we just simply write as PB. And the same thing here, you could just say A is 0.01 PB. Just keep in mind that P and B are being multiplied by each other. Okay, so you have the decimal form, and you have the fraction form. If you don't want both possibilities, just pick one and you can use whichever one you like for the entire lesson. I like having both. I think of it, tomato, tomato. I like to have both. I also understand that they are the same, but I like to have them both. Okay, so without any further ado, I guess I'll keep these as my little reference guides over here. And let's do a couple examples. Okay, so before we start, well, let me just put down the problem before I actually do it. So what is 35% of 210. So anytime you see the word what, it also means what number. That's an unknown value. So that will be the letter A. So the key word there is. Key word is is. So if the problem says what is, then that means what is the unknown value. So that means A is my unknown value. Okay. And then P is always easy to find. P is always next to the word percent. And then of, look for the word of. That always tells you what B is. B is always of B. All right. So A is. And you can choose either form that you like. Maybe for this one example, I'll do it both ways. So I'll do the fraction form. A is 35 times 210. Now see how you have to use a symbol? This is PB, but you don't want to write 210 because then it looks like 35,210. You can use parentheses. You can use an X. I don't really recommend an X. I probably won't do that. Or you can just put a dot. I'm using parentheses over 100. Okay. So that's the fraction form. Feel free to use a calculator. The numbers are going to get pretty big. So 35 times 210 is 7,350 divided by 100. You don't need a calculator for that. That's 73.50 or 73.5. Okay, so that would be the fraction form. Typically, your final answer is going to have a decimal. If sometimes you get lucky and it comes out to be a whole number, and then just ignore it. If there is a decimal, just read it carefully and make sure you give me the proper number of decimal points. This is a terminal decimal. It terminates 0.5, so I don't really have to worry. But there might be some examples where the decimal goes on and on and on and on. Really quickly, I could do it as a decimal. I should get the same answer. Just use this version of it. So that would be 0.01 and then 35 and then 210. This is for people that are afraid of fractions or just prefer using the decimals. And so you're going to get 0.01. I already know what 35 times 210 is. Yeah, that's 7,350. I'm not even going to use the calculator. I already know. 0.01 times 7,350 is still, I'm just going to go up, 73.5. So you will get the same answer whether you use a decimal or a fraction. So the process is pretty straightforward. Where most of the mistakes are going to be made. I've already seen this movie. I know how it ends. The most common mistake is screwing up the A and the B, right? Not putting A and B in the right place. It's very easy to do. Let me give you another example. So 175 is what percent of 500? Come on back to me. There it goes. So the key word you want to look for here is. Yeah. All right. You can also look for of as well. Yeah. Of always tells you what B is, and is always tells you who A is. And it matters. If you put A and B in the wrong position, you will not get the right answer. All right. It's always A is, and then of B. And then look for the word what. That's your unknown. And so it says what percent, so P is the unknown. P is what I'm solving for. So choose your weapon. What do you want to do? You want to do fraction or do you want to do decimal? It really doesn't matter. I like the fraction myself. So A, I got 175. That's A. Is P. P is an unknown. So I'm just going to leave it as P. Times, use some parentheses for times, or you could use a dot, 500 over 100. Okay, now simplify this first. 100 goes into 500 5 times, so that'll be 5p. If you want, you can write P5. It means the same thing. But I like to say 5P. So I've got divide both sides by 5, and I get P is 175 divided by 5. I should probably be able to do that in my head, but just to be safe, 35. So it's 35%. P is automatically a percent sign. So anytime you're solving for P, your answer is automatically percent. Don't type this symbol. I'm working on that. They're sort of, we're in the transitional period from when the problems would not allow the student to put in the percent symbol to where they could possibly allow you to put the symbol. So I just went ahead. I put all the percent symbols in the problem, in the answer boxes already. So you just type the 35 and the percent symbol will be there for you. I'm working on an updated version, probably won't be out until next year, where it's just a blank, and if the answer is percent, you have to actually type the percent symbol and so on and so forth. But we're not there yet. It's still a work in progress, so don't type the symbol. Just know that it's percent. Right. It's kind of neat for you because that's a clue that the answer better be a percentage if the answer key already or the answer box already shows the percent symbol. So there you have it. It also tells you that if the answer box does not have a percent symbol, then you know that you're not solving for P. You must be solving for one of the other ones. Okay, let's try another one. My pens, I hope they hold up through this lesson. 180 is 60% of what number? Sometimes I say what, sometimes I say what number. It really means the same thing. Yeah. There's our key, is. So I know that this must be A. Yeah. A is. And then here's my other key. There are two keys, is and of. Of what? So I know that what must be B. B is the unknown. The only one of the three, A, B, and P, that always tells you who they are is P. Yeah. P never hides. Right? It's A and B that you have to be very careful with. P is always percent. Okay. I also don't use a percent symbol in my equation. The percent symbol is divided by 100. You don't want to do both. A very common mistake is somebody will write 60% and then right here they will write 60%. You don't want to do that. 60 divided by 100, that's automatically your 60%. Okay. Or if you prefer decimals, .01 times 60 times B, that's another way to do it. Let's do it this way. It really doesn't. You're going to get the same answer anyway. Whenever I do the decimal version, I like to multiply these two first. I mean, unless I already know what B is. If I already knew what B was, I probably would have done that first. But I don't know what B is, so I'm going to multiply the .01 and the 60. That gives me .60, yeah, or 0.6. .60 is the same as 0.6. Okay. Which, by the way, is the same thing as 60 divided by 100. So I hope you see that these all mean the same thing. So 60 hundredths is the same as .01 times 60, which is the same as 0.60, which is the same as 0.6. Remember, my goal is to find what B is. So I actually like to write it this way. 0.6B equals 180. Like that. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 0.6. All right. And again, there's no shame in using the calculator. And get 300. And that's not 300%, that's 300 whatever. Depends on what we're talking about. We haven't really done any real life problems, but this could be 300 people, this could be 300 minutes, this could be $300, this could be, it's 300 of something. Okay. So that's the basic setup for the general application of percent. You're always going to be solving for one of the three letters, A, P, or B, APB. I never make you solve for more than one, not in this class. That's a different class. Okay, let's do a couple more. I scrambled the terminology around a little bit. And maybe do some more complicated percentages. So something like 2.5%. So now I'm using the percent symbol. of what number Two and a half percent of what number is 6.5? Ah, I wrote the word of twice. So 2.5% of what number is 6.5? Okay. So I just want to make an important note. If A is equal to PB over 100, yeah, then that means the same thing as PB over 100 is A. Yeah. Tomato, tomato. Yeah. So I'm just taking the equation that we already have, and I'm rewriting it this way because the is on this side now. Right? So is A, so that means the 6.5 must be A. So I'm going to solve the equation this way. Yeah. So that means this must be P. The percent symbol gives it away. All right. Now I have to be careful. The percent symbol just tells me that P is 2.5. I don't want to say P is 2.5% because then you end up with a double percentage that screws everything all up. And then look for the keyword of what number. So what number must be B? So B is what I'm looking for. So P is 2.5. B is an unknown value over 100 is, that's my is, A is 6.5. Yeah, so there's A, and there's PB over 100. Now again, I got to make this very clear. Hopefully I'm making it abundantly clear. The 100 is the percent symbol. That's the 100. If you put 2.5% and you put the 100, it's going to screw the whole thing up. So the 100 is the percent symbol. Okay. You're going to divide this by 100. Remember how to divide by 100? You cross off the 100 and you move the decimal 2 places to the left, adding a couple zeros like that. So now you have 0.025B is 6.5. Nice review of all the rules of division, especially division of powers of 10. Okay. And now you're going to divide both sides by 0.025. Hello, I'm still here. Okay, no shame in using a calculator for these. 6.5 divided by 0.025 is 260. All right. These are very straightforward. I'm not going to try to trick you. I'll give you questions exactly like these. I'll change the numbers up a little bit, but the most common mistake is that you follow the recipe, but you mix up A and B. All right. every once in a while somebody mixes up P, but it's very rare. P is like, hey, I'm P, right? Don't confuse me, but A's and B's often get interchanged. Let me just try another one. I mean, this is all we're doing today until we actually start doing some real word problems. These are just kind of the training. Word problem, basic training. I need to go get some new pens today, too. What percent of 70 is 49? All right. So again, this is what? So P is now our unknown. Keyword of, so that means this must be B, and then is, that's the other keyword, this must be A. This is where it gets kind of tricky, because look, it says of 70 is 49, all right, and so is goes with A, and then the of goes with the B, which is 70. It might help if you write it like this. PB over 100 is, there's the is, A. All right. I can't tell you how many times this one I've graded, when I would actually collect your work, a year ago, where it's because it says 70 is, look, 70 is, and so somebody would say that 70 is the A because it's so close to the word is. Right, so you have to read it of 70, so that must be B, of 70, and then is 49 must be A. Okay. So P is our unknown. We don't know what P is, so keep it as a variable. Some people just call it X. I've seen that before. I like to use the letter that indicates what it is. So there's either an A, a B, or a P. All right. B is 70. So you can write P70 if you like, but it looks funny, so usually use some parentheses here. Divided by 100. Again, or if you prefer, instead of dividing by 100, you could multiply by 0.01. That would mean the same thing. And then is A is 49. Okay. Let me show you a cool way to solve this one. This one's kind of neat. 70 and 100 are not divisible, but they are both multiples of 10. So you can say 7 times 10. Cross off the 10, and then 10 times 10 and cross off the 10. So that becomes 7/10 P. You could also write that as a decimal 0.7. You can also keep the P up in the numerator if you like. It means the same thing. So 7/10 times P means the same thing as 7 times P over 10. I'm going to do this one without the calculator. I'm going to multiply both sides by 10 first. So that gets rid of the denominator. So now I have 7P is 490. And you see why I'm choosing not to use the calculator. I'm showing off a little bit, but it's because it's a basic math value that you knew when you were 10 years old, right? 7 times 7 is 49, right? So there you go, 49. So when you divide both sides by 7, you're going to get 49 divided by 7 is 7. Bring down the 0. So 70%. Okay. It's already a percent. P is already a percent form. Again, you don't have to type the percent symbol. It should already be there for you. You know, if it was a test or a quiz and you accidentally typed the percent symbol, I would go back and give you credit for it. I'm not going to penalize you. If it's the homework and you get it wrong for that, then just go back and fix it yourself. Okay. All right. I don't know what else to say. That's the general format. That's the general application of percent. There are a couple percentages that you should just memorize. Yeah. A couple percentages that you should just know by heart. One 1% of any number move the decimal 2 places to the left. Yeah. 1% of any number. Move the decimal 2 places to the left. If there is no decimal, if you don't see a decimal, then you know where it is. It's all the way at the far right. Yeah. So for example, find 1% of each number. So what's 1% of any of 2.6? Yeah, that would be take the decimal, move it 2 places to the left, add an extra 0, you get 0.026. It's 1% of it. $59. What's 1% of 59? Well, if you don't see a decimal, it's all the way at the right. And so move it 2 places to the left and add a 0 if necessary. So 0.59. Okay. Let me just do a part C here. $4,300. There's a decimal here. Invisible decimal. Move it to the left 2 places. Now, so technically this is $43.00, but we typically just omit the zeros when that happens. And just say 43. But I mean, I guess if it was a problem with money, this would be $43.00. It would still be okay to put the 0 cents. Typically, you just say 43. Okay. So that is 1% of any number. Right? You can do this mentally. You don't need the calculator. You can do this just when you see a number. You want to know what 1% of that is. Move the decimal 2 places to the left. Now this comes in handy, right? So suppose you wanted to know 2% of a number. Right? Well, let's take a number like this. I mean, why would you want to know 1% of a number? Well, if you know 1% of a number, then you could do any percent. So if you know 1%, 1% is 43, then that means 2% must be 86. Yeah, because 1% is 43, so 2% would be 86. Yeah. What would 5% be? 5% would be, well, 5 times 43 would be 215, right? I might use a calculator for that. 43 times 5. Yep, 215. Yeah. So once you know 1%, then you know any percent. You want to know 15%? Well, find 1% and then multiply it by 15 after you've actually done the decimal. Okay. The other percentage I want you to memorize is 10%. You don't want to have to think or use your calculator anytime it's 10%. 10%, move the decimal one place to the left. All right, find 10% of each number. Let me give you some numbers. What's 10% of 590? Invisible decimal. Move it one place to the left. So that would be, I'm using an arrow instead of an equal sign because they're technically not equal. I'm just kind of this is mental math. So I'm not writing out a proper equation. That would be 59.0 or just 59. So over here I'm using an equal sign because they are in fact equal. Here I'm using the arrow means mental math. Yeah, we call that an implication. Yeah. I'm implying it, yeah, through my mental math powers. Yeah. $23.4. What's 10% of 23.4? Move the decimal 1 point to the left. Mental math gives me 2.34. Okay, that's it. I don't know what else to say. I don't even know if I need a part C for this one. I don't know. 876,000. What's 10% of that? Take the decimal here, move it one place to the left, throw away that 0. I need to get some new pens. 87600. So 876,000, 10% is 87,600. Now this trick really comes in handy, all right? Because 10%, if you know how to find 10%, let's take this for example, then you can easily find 20%. Yeah. So 20% of 590 would be what? 118. Just using mental math. You know that 10% is 59. 10% of 5, remember this was originally 590. Yeah. So 10% of 590 was 59. So that means 20% of 590 must be 118. And so this really comes in handy when you are paying a tip at a restaurant. Now I know these days we've gotten so lazy. We have cell phone apps that will tell you how to find a tip. Suppose your bill at a restaurant. Restaurant. I always have to look up how to spell restaurant. Is $35.20. All right, so you went to a cheap restaurant and had some lunch or something. You didn't take your whole family out to dinner because it would be a lot more than $35. All right, $35.20. Okay. So suppose you want to leave a. Now this is only the tip. Okay. In the next section, I think it's 6.3. Yeah, 6.3. I'll be making these questions a little more complicated. You know, I'll do the tax, the tip, the total. We'll do all sorts of other applications. But for now, I'm just saying the tip. So suppose you're a real cheap tipper, 5%. Yeah, 5% tip. That was like me when I was in college. I hated to tip, right? I felt like I'm so poor, you know, I'm living on student loans. I'm going out to this dinner that I could only afford, you know, once a week. And I don't really want to leave much more than just a little bit of change, you know. I'm sorry. I've gotten a little bit better now in my profession. But so suppose you're in college, you're a cheap tipper, 5% tip. Yeah, it's better than nothing, right? And do it all with mental math. Try to do this all with mental math. Now I know nowadays they actually put it on the receipt. They'll put like all these different tip amounts right on the receipt, so you don't even have to do the math anymore. But we'll pretend like we're still living in the 80s, right? You know, you don't have a smartphone. Nobody would go to dinner with a calculator. I mean, some people did. My dad had the calculator watch back in the 80s, but I think I still have it somewhere. Do it all with mental math. So let's do mental math here. Mental math. 1%, right? 1% is 35 cents, yeah? And then 10% is $3.52. So you can keep these in your mind. All right, and then now decide what's easier, okay? You can either do the 1% times 5, or you can do the 10% divided by 2, whichever one's easier in your head. They'll give you the same answer either way. I usually do the 10% divided by 2, unless the 1% is a very easy number. So, I mean, suppose the 1% came out to be 3. Well, then I would just times it by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. I'd be done, right? But if the 1%, look at the 1%. The 1% is 0.3520. Do you really feel like doing that in your head 5 times? I don't think so. But you could easily divide the 10% divided by 2. Yeah, 10% divided by 2. So what's $3 divided by 2? That's $1.50. Yeah, $3 divided by 2. And then 52 cents divided by 2 is 26 cents. So that's $1.76. And again, this is dollars. You don't have to type the dollar sign. The dollar sign should already be there for you. A dollar sign is kind of like a percent sign, really. I mean, it's provided for you in that sense. Yeah. And again, I did this all with mental math. Yeah, I just did half of 3 is $1.50, and then half of 52 is 26. If you have an odd amount of change that's not easy to divide by 2, then you could just round up. Yeah. In other words, add 1 to the final answer so that you end up with a number of cents. Okay. Suppose you want to tip 10%. It's already done. $3.52. Yeah, that's easy. 10%. And then finally, suppose you wanted to tip 15%. Maybe not finally, but sub-finally. Suppose you want to do 15%. Well, you have 5 and you have 10. 5 and 10. You just add these guys together. $1.76 plus $3.52. 6 and 2 is 8. 5 and 7 is 12. Carry the 1, so that'll be $5.28. That would be your 15% tip. If you're a real big tipper, I think once or twice in my life, I got a raise, or I got the job I was looking for, or I was just trying to be impressive, and I'm going to leave a 20% tip. All right, 20% tip is easy. Just take the 10% tip and multiply it by 2. So $3.52 times 2 would be $7.04. Yeah, right? I did that mentally. $3.50 times 2 is $7, and then there's an extra 2 cents. So 2 cents times 2 is an extra 4 cents. So $7.04. I probably would just do $7, but I mean, if you really want to be exactly 20%, that's $7.04. Okay, so that's mental math tipping. You can impress your next date with your ability to do that. You don't have to reach for your cell phone. You don't have to use a calculator. You don't have to even, look at the little cheat sheet on the receipt. You can just say, oh, I know. Just look at the bill and move the decimal, and you're on your way to the big show. Now, we don't always get so lucky. Sometimes the amounts are not quite that simple. Suppose the bill was $85, and you want to tip some weird amount like 18%. Yeah. I've been seeing this one a lot. I don't know. It's almost like the restaurants are like, well, 20's too much. Only really rich people tip 20%, and 15 has gotten to be too low. A lot of waiters and waitresses, especially now in the time of COVID, where they're struggling to get by, 15%'s not enough, right? So I've noticed this lately. 18%, yeah, 18%'s a pretty common tip these days. I probably would just multiply this one out, yeah. So the tip would be equal to 0.01 times 18 times 85. So this is doing it not mentally, but doing it, I guess you could do this part mentally. 0.01 times 18, you could definitely do that part mentally, but I don't know anybody in my family, including myself, and I'm the resident, PhD in math, that can multiply 18 times 85 in my head. So I'm just going to do this one on the calculator. 0.18 times 85, and that's $15.30. There is an invisible zero here. So oftentimes on your homework, if money is listed with only one decimal, that's just the computer omitting the optional zero. But I like to see it. Although I would still mark this correct. 15.3 is correct. But when you're writing it out on paper, it's $15.30. So that would be an 18% tip of $85. And you know what I'm going to ask. I'm not going to ask it right now, but you could already start thinking about it. You know, what about the tax, right? There's tax, right? What about the total, right? You're going to have to pay the $85. You're going to have to pay the tip. You're going to have to pay the tax. There might be a parking fee, valet parking. I don't know. There might be lots of other things. So by the time you get out of this restaurant, you might have paid, $130 or $120 or something by the time you got out. We're already up to over 100, right? 85 and 15. And that doesn't include tax, doesn't include parking, doesn't include a lot of other things. Maybe there's free parking. I don't know. Okay. Well, I got to go to office hours pretty soon. I'm wondering if I should keep going or should I just do a part 2? Why don't we do a part 2? All right, we're getting close to an hour. I haven't heard much feedback from you all, but if you have any feedback, what I have heard is that you probably prefer shorter lessons and just more of them than giant lessons that you have to search through. So I'll come back with a part 2, but until we see each other again, this is Dr. Jordan reminding you to see you on the internet.